Hello and welcome to another video of the character animation series. In this video, you will learn how to create a simple walk cycle. This is perfect for the character animation beginner. There are only 4 main poses in a walk cycle: the contact pose, the low pose, the passing pose, and the high pose. If you can memorize those 4 poses and really understand what each does, then you will be able to create walk cycles with your eyes closed. There are a total of 9 key poses in a walk cycle. These 4 poses are inverses or opposites of the first 4 poses. So you would copy the first 4 poses and then flip the arms and legs around. The final pose is the contact pose again, which will complete the walk cycle. And while I've supplied the frame numbers on the side, you could nudge your own and find the right timing for your character. This isn't set in stone, it just works for me, that's all. So first up, the contact pose. This is the first pose of a walk cycle, and we start with the feet at its widest length. This is called the maximum stride length. The front foot is raised off the heel and the back foot is raised off the toes. The arms swing in the opposite directions of the legs always. The hips rotate around towards the leg and the chest always rotates opposite the hips. In the front view, we rotate the hips so that it looks like we place the weight of the body on the front leg. The chest then rotates opposite the hips. You should also rotate the feet in opposite directions slightly to make it look more realistic, but then again, it depends on the style of your character's walk. The contact poses are on frames 1 and 25. The low pose is the part of the walk cycle where the body is at its lowest point. So the hips go down. The back leg moves towards the front leg, and the front leg is planted flat on the ground. The hips and body starts to rotate back to the front like it originally did. If you want to make your character's head bob as it walks, you could rotate the head up slightly. The low pose is on frame 4 and the inverse low pose is on frame 16. In the passing pose, the back leg is now in line with the front leg. The back leg is slightly raised off the ground. Make sure it is only slightly raised. Beginners tend to raise the leg too much, which isn't very realistic. Just look at people in real life when they walk around, and you'll notice their legs aren't raised that high, and that it nearly scrapes the ground. If you don't notice this, they may be trolling you. You could actually raise the feet higher if you're doing more cartoony animations though. The hip is also slightly raised. The hips and chest are now facing frontwards with no rotation at all, and the hands are by the character's sides. The passing pose is on frame 7 and the inverse passing pose is on frame 19. We finally get to the high pose. In the high pose, the character is at its highest point in the walk cycle. The hips is raised higher. The back leg now becomes the front leg as it moves forwards, and the front leg now becomes the back leg as it moves back. The arms, of course, rotate in opposite direction of the legs, but isn't too extended as the inverted contact pose is next. The hips and chest are rotated like in the contact pose, but in the opposite direction, and again not too much as the inverted contact pose will handle that. Finally, to get the bobbing head look, you can subtly rotate the head downwards. The high pose is on frame 9 and the inverse high pose is on frame 21. And that's all the main poses. You can pose your walk cycle in a specific order to save you heaps of time. The best order I found when working with posing the walk cycle is first starting with the contact poses, and then the inverse contact pose right in the middle. Then the passing pose and the inverse passing pose. Then I'd go through and do the low pose and high pose in any order, and then I'd be done. Again, timing is not set in stone here, and you could shuffle these around to find the right one that works for you. The timing here was just based on my own experiments. And that's it. Thank you for watching, and I hope you learned something, and if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to this channel and check out my website. It will be much appreciated. Thank you.